fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
No. Thank you.
I don't even remember what that's from. What is that from? Give me fuel, give me fire, give me that which I desire.
Fuck.
It's a band.
Yes.
You're welcome. I helped. You're welcome.
We got it narrowed down.
You're welcome.
I keep wanting to say it's Fuel, but it's obviously not.
I mean,
that is a band of that ilk, isn't it?
Be a pretty sick self shout out though, wouldn't it?
Give me me.
Give me myself. What's up, man?
Oh, chilling.
What's popping with the population?
I don't know. I don't really talk to people usually.
Sick.
I was thinking today.
Okay. Dude, this is a really bad segue for you to be like, I don't really talk to human beings, so I was thinking. It's gone too far.
No, well, that is the moral of this story. No, I was hanging out with a fellow self-employed friend last night, and we were just talking about like how shit gets weird sometimes, and you know, sometimes you gotta like make sure that you talk to other humans and like go outside. And I had a realization today that at like 5 p.m. by far the majority of my interaction, like spoken interaction, the majority of the words I'd said today were to my dog.
Sick.
Who obviously doesn't respond.
Dog dads go fly. Update number 700. Have resorted to speaking dog language.
That's about right.
Cannot podcast anymore. Roof, roof. Bark. Bark, bark.
Bork.
Heck. We gotta bring Bork back.
We never had Bork in there.
Oh, just the heck.
The heck is from Dog Source. We could bring in the Bork for when we do Dad Dog's Ghost Blog segments.
Yeah, just bork all the way through it.
Yes.
I like this a lot. Also Metallica.
Oh, right.
Also, I was thinking today on our production meeting.
That's a little embarrassing, except that like I just never listened to that shit.
Yeah, I didn't either. Hi guys, it's the What If Podcast. On air production meeting. I really want to get. Have I shown you the banana bread at work video guy?
Yeah.
I really want to get his hell yeah and his hell no for the show because I feel like we've got the good.
I'm not gonna go search it now because it's a long ass video, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, it's like 2.5 minutes, and it is worth every second. That man is.
There's all
of my heart.
This is very on-air production meeting inside podcast. There's a section of our Google Drive for sounds, and you should put a link in there, and I'll pull it.
Why did I not know this?
Well, now you know.
All right. Is this
you don't know
thing?
because I haven't told you that before now.
Okay. All right.
But there's a spreadsheet in there where I put things to like. If I'm, looking at something on my phone or whatever, I'm like, oh, I should get sound for that.
I gotta go get that later. Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. All right. I couldn't
tell you what it's called right now. I think it's like audio or something.
I'm going to destroy it with links to videos.
Perfect.
How are you, man? Anything else going on in your world?
Not really.
Cool. Cool. Word. Well, I want to say a couple things. One, thank you to everyone for your Los Angeles solidarity after we spoke about LA in last week's episode. Christine sent us a very great video that made me laugh my ass off about.
I don't think I saw that.
You should watch it. It's from Letterkenny where they talk about LA.
Okay. Where did this arrive? Was this on social media or in our email?
It was in our email.
Okay.
It's a clip from Letterkenny where they talk about how everybody in LA likes hiking and tacos, but they're Canadian guys, so they're like, "Oh, gotta go on another hike. Oh, Runyon Canyon."
I mean, hiking and tacos are both great.
It's a bunch of pork and chicken rolled up in a tortilla. How fucking good can it be? And they're shredding LA. Anyway, that was funny. Secondly, shout out to everybody who's been talking about Florida. We were in Florida for the Coral Castle last week.
Oh, I was like, I've never been to Florida.
No, I'm saying folks both in our email inbox and in the Facebook group. By the way, go join the Facebook group. We haven't shouted that out in a while, but it's a thriving land of delightfulness, and a lot of y'all are in there. We're about at 1,000 folks posting weird shit every day, which brings joy to my heart. So go join that. But we've been talking about Florida in there a lot because we were also talking about Florida on the Patreon episode last week, talking about Florida man stories.
Yeah.
And
are we going somewhere with this? Or
as luck would have it,
okay,
we're going back to Florida this week.
Oh, right.
On the What If Podcast.
Yeah. That's all unplanned too. That's kind of fun.
It's lit. We're having a Florida series. What if you went to Florida and then all this shit?
At least one person who I think I've probably been to Florida when I was like real little, I guess.
I would say I've been too many times for a 32-year-old grown adult.
I've never been as an adult, but like my dad used to travel a lot and we went places when I was little. I think I probably went there at some point.
Yeah. It's a place people go.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. As opposed to a place people don't go.
Well, like Minnesota.
Minnesota. Yeah, that's true.
You got to have a reason to get up here. Usually.
Well, we've got the Mall of America, don't you know?
Yeah. We're
it's
like
the biggest one in the country, I heard.
On the way to Winnipeg, I guess, sort of.
You can drive through us on your way to a better destination.
Is Winnipeg better than Minneapolis? I don't know about that.
No, absolutely.
I don't know about all that.
I love my town.
Toronto, yes. Vancouver, yes. Winnipeg,
Sorry, Winnipeg.
You don't even get like good coastal weather. You're just right in the middle of the shit.
Sorry, Winnipeg.
All right, Florida.
Yeah, we're talking about the Betz sphere this week.
That is Betz sphere. It's very hard to say.
Betz sphere.
Right.
Betz sphere.
It runs into like one thing. BETZ.
I'm on my first sphere and I'm throwing my words into the Betz sphere.
I'm getting
I'm already dickering on this one, boys. It's the Betz sphere.
I think we should probably just tell this story because there's a lot. And when we want to interject, we should interject.
There's a lot. Let's tell the story. Also, there are other places that go into this more in depth. We are going to do that.
That's not what we're here for.
That's not what we're here for.
We've never been here for depth.
We are here for the 90-minute version of this.
We are here for breadth and fuckery. And not depth and not information.
That is the best summary of our show. We are here for breadth and fuckery.
We will hit a lot of surface level things and make stupid jokes about them.
Yep. I'm gonna, well, never mind.
If you want depth on any of these things, in audio form, there's about 11 hours of it over on Astonishing Legends.
Shout out to those.
With a lot of information that we just straight up don't have access to because they went and found it themselves.
Shout out to those cats. We respect their hustle.
There's
We're just not as good at that.
Yeah, it's not really our thing. It's their thing.
Yeah.
They're great at it. We're good at our thing.
So if you guys want that version, by all means.
There's also a Mysterious Universe article, which I think was actually the original inspiration for that 50-11 hour series on Astonishing Legends.
Got you.
Written by Rob Morphy, that we can link to. But it's if you search Mysterious Universe Betz Sphere, you will find this long-ass, thorough-ass, entertaining-ass article on Mysterious Universe.
Best Sphere.
All right. You want to tell the story and I'll interject bullshit and then we can trade at some point? We can pop Popcorn Spencer, Popcorn Ryan.
Popcorn. Oh, man.
Popcorn Dog Dude.
Can we get Dog Dude? Bork?
Yes.
Okay.
We'll consult Marcy from time to time, see if he's got any input on Mysterious Spheres.
March 27th, 1974.
I also saw May 26th. I don't know what's going on with that, but I've seen both.
So
Spring of 1974.
Spring of 1974. There is, I would say, many small variations.
There is many
on this story. There is many. Are you agreeing? Yeah. And we'll call those out when we get to them. But there's some places you see this, some places you see this. Yeah. In fact, like the opening of this story is chock full of them.
Yeah.
We are, spring of 1974, we'll be more generic. We are in Florida. Like I said, we are in Fort George Island, Florida, which is east of Jacksonville, northeast. It's right on the coast in an area that is sort of the coastal swampy marshlands of northeastern Florida. And that's where Fort George Island is a city. The Betz family owns a house in Fort George Island, and in 1974, they had recently bought a new plot of land that, from what I can tell, this is partially where stories differ. Some people say it was like their yard, their property. They found it in like their backyard, which was huge, but like big backyard.
Well, they had 88 acres from what I've read.
So that was what I was going to say, though, was I've also seen it where it's like they had a house in a neighborhood and that was their land, but they had also bought this 88-acre plot that was closer towards the coast.
Yeah.
And that's where the 88-acre plot of land was. So separate from their like primary dwelling.
Got it.
Is the way I understand it.
Okay.
On this 88-acre plot of land outside of Jacksonville, there is a brush fire one day. And it's not entirely clear how they learned that there was a brush fire. I'm assuming someone reported it, but it's an 88-acre plot of land. I mean...
Yeah, but if shit's on fire,
somebody
it's probably
knew.
pretty flat out there.
Yeah, but still, like 90 acres, I mean, that's a huge amount of land.
Yeah, but if part of it's on fire, you're probably going to notice.
You can probably see, yeah.
I don't know. I usually notice if things I own start on fire.
Yeah, but I don't own like fucking 50 football fields worth of marshland with like trees and shit.
Not with that attitude.
One day. Patreon.com/whatifpodcast. So Terry, Jerry, and Antoine. Terry and Jerry. That they make up the Betz family. Terry is the elder son of Antoine and Jerry. Antoine is a marine engineer. I didn't find a profession for Jerry. Did you?
She did a bunch of different shit.
Yeah, I saw one thing that she was like in the trucking industry or something like that.
She drove a truck, ran a trucking company, bought and sold property, and did all kinds of various things. I
got the impression she was not employed at the time of this happening, but had like made her money as a human up to this point.
That I don't know.
I don't either. Terry, Antoine, and Jerry go to their 88-acre plot of land to check out the damage from the brush fire, potentially put out anything that's remaining if they can, just kind of see what's going on. And in the process of surveying their 88 acres, Terry stumbles upon a very interesting object, if you will.
A sphere, perhaps.
A sphere, perhaps. Perhaps to become known as the sphere. The Betz sphere is steel in color.
Is steel color? Silver in color?
Silver in color, I guess. Probably better.
It's metal colored?
Metal colored.
It's shiny colored.
Shiny. It's a shiny sphere. It's about 21, 22 pounds. It's about 8 inches across in diameter. And it's a perfectly round, polished sphere.
It's like if you had a ball bearing the size of a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Without any markings or seams or welds or anything on it.
This is another one where...
Except for a small triangle stamped onto it.
Yeah, it looks like, what do they call that? Oh, I'm fucking dumb. The
Triangles?
Elongated triangle, isosceles triangle. Oh, yeah.
Well done.
You see how proud I am of like
basic geometry,
remembering like third grade geometry. There, yeah. So that's the only marking on it. There's no gaskets, no nothing else. They do feel like it's heavy for a 8-inch across diameter object. You know, the average
that's pretty dense.
Yeah, I mean the average bowling ball at 8 inches across is about what? 13 to 15
12
pounds.
to 15, somewhere in there, yeah.
Something like that. So
unless you go get like the pink 7-pound one and just throw it as hard as you can.
You're just doing fast pitch at that point, or you're going underhand and just doing like softball, like shit whipping it.
So yeah, if you picked up a bowling ball size thing that was almost twice as heavy as a bowling ball, that would be a pretty dense sphere.
Yeah. We don't have any specific context around like exactly where on their property they found it.
No.
So we don't know, like, did they pull off the road and it was like right there, or were they walking for an hour into their property and then they found it, or whatever.
Yeah.
But what we do know is, so there's some speculation about like, would something like this have contributed to a fire?
Right. Well, I think that was their first inclination, was that maybe this was a crashed satellite.
Yes.
Because in the early 70s, I think that was still sort of top of mind.
Sure. You're talking about Russia, you're talking about the US, you're talking about moon missions.
Yeah, you're still like, you're not too far removed from the space race.
Cape Canaveral is like not super far away.
Yeah. So they thought perhaps it was a downed satellite that had caused this brush fire. and looked around for an impact crater or any sign that might be the case and didn't find any. It's also odd that this thing appears to be like cosmetically flawless. There are no gouges in it. There are no, it doesn't look like anything is broken off of it. It looks like it's totally intact. It's not dented or anything.
Yeah, there's also
no indication that it survived re-entry from outer space.
Yeah, also a lot of people commented after the fact that there would have been probably a pretty noticeable crater if something that was 8 inches wide and 20 pounds came hurtling out of space.
Right.
And it didn't appear to be...
That mass must exist, right?
Oh, 100%.
In terms of what type of impact crater that would create?
Yeah. Re-entry speed.
Cratercreator.com, is that probably out there?
I don't know, but I'm about to buy it on this podcast. And then I'm
also
gonna
put it on the list.
Crater Creator?
Yeah.
That is pretty good, actually.
Or maybe Crater. That's also not bad.
I like Crater Creator, though, because it's a little bit more like powerful. You know, like when I take steps, I create craters. I'm a Crater Creator.
Yes. They're sounding similar enough in my head that like it took me a second to be like, wait, which order did he say it
which
in?
one? What's he talking about?
Yeah.
The Sweary Boys. Inventing math live on the show.
Those two are fucking dumb.
Preach.
So yeah, there would have been a big ass hole in the ground had a 22-pound, 8-inch across thing hit the Earth from outer space.
Yeah, there also would have been, it would have experienced tremendous heat upon reentry, and a lot of people said it wouldn't have been shiny and metallic. It would have had some sort of like heat markings or burn markings from the reentry trajectory.
Also, satellites aren't perfect spheres usually.
No, they're not.
Like that's not what satellites looked like in 1974.
No, they're not.
Or at any point since.
I think there was speculation like, is this a piece of one, or was this a gyroscope from inside of one, or
still odd that it would be perfectly intact and you wouldn't find any other things though.
Totally agree.
And you would still have some sort of impact somewhere.
Yes, agreed. But with no kind of further information, no further markings, the fire out, the family goes home and
with the ball.
They bring that ball with them. Mm-hmm. Terry dribbles it all the way home. No, they bring it home.
It dribbled itself while playing music.
True. They just thought it was cool and interesting and weird, and they're like, "Fuck it, we're gonna keep it." Can we keep it?
It's on our property. It's ours now.
True. So Terry gets home and puts this sphere in his room as like a cool new piece of decor for his 70s 21-year-old pre-med
hell yeah
room with his parents. And one night,
hey girl, I live with my parents.
You trying to come over and hear me play some git fiddle?
Check out this silver ball though. It's pretty heavy. I got a heavy one.
You impressed? He invites a lady over to hang out and decides to play some guitar. I'm sure it was probably like some John Denver.
It's Wonderwall.
Seems a little early for Wonderwall, doesn't it?
He wrote it.
Yeah, this is actually what this whole story is. The Betz Sphere is a story of how Wonderwall was created.
It's a Floridian folk tune.
Terry Betz was inspired by a space object
20 years later.
Terry has his friend Teresa up in his room and starts playing guitar.
Give me
for
fuel,
her.
give me fire, give me that which I desire.
And the ball just starts moshing around in his room. But actually, it kind of does.
Yeah, according to Popcorn Spencer, according to Terry, he said it, quote, vibrated like a tuning fork.
It's pretty weird.
And this is no longer a quote. That was the end of the quote. Began emitting a like vibrating, pulsing sound, sort of in resonance with certain notes that he played. So he thought it was like resonating with certain frequencies when he would play them.
Right.
Which doesn't necessarily mean that much, other than this thing is capable of resonating.
Right, because anything that is capable of resonating will resonate more or less depending on...
You know that trash can to your right that we always have to, like, if it's not full, put out of the room because it resonates with your voice?
Or stuff my code in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He had a 22-pound trash can in his room.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is the... that's definitely, like, the easiest take, right? Is he's playing guitar and the thing starts, like... humming. We don't know what kind of guitar he was playing. I think an acoustic guitar probably wouldn't be enough to actually make something like that resonate. Maybe it would. I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like if it's sitting in the corner of your room, I don't feel like that'd be enough. Especially because it's not open in any way. That's the other thing that I feel like is weird. Is if it's fully impenetrable, which I mean it was. There's no seams.
That is the only odd part about it to me. Is like something that dense resonating loudly enough to be like audible over other sounds happening,
right,
is a little weird,
right.
But like, I don't know, that quote just, that's always one of the like, oh, spooky shit quotes. And it's like, he said like a tuning fork. Like a tuning fork is exactly that.
Right. It's a chunk of metal that resonates when you play notes that correspond with it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that seems like nothing more than coincidence to me, except for I don't know enough like physics to know, like, is it being so dense and also resonant actually weird?
Yes.
It seems weird to me, but that's not based on any actual knowledge.
Sure. But you know what is weird?
Yeah.
Popcorn Ryan. What is weird is when Terry tells Jerry and Antoine and Wayne is
so many strong names in this story.
Very strong names. Wayne is the little brother in the family, who was, I think, 12 at the time.
I don't remember.
I think Wayne was 12 and Terry was 21. And it's just the two of the siblings,
Terry
right?
was definitely 21. I don't remember how old Wanye was.
I think 12 is right. Terry takes it to the family and says, hey, this thing's being weird. And when they put the ball on the floor and roll it away from themselves, the Betz sphere seems to move of its own accord.
And change directions.
Pausing, changing directions again. And they said often returning to the place that it was originally pushed away from.
Weird.
Definitely weirder than a humming sound.
Yes. Also, did you ever live in like an old shitty college house?
Yes, bro.
A few of them? Yeah.
Many, bro.
So I did as well, over by the old University of Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
I lived in 4 different houses in my 4 years of university.
Yeah.
3 of the 4 in which my bedroom did not have heat, which is a fun thing to do in Minnesota.
Okay, I didn't live in that shitty of a college house, bro.
You didn't go to art school.
Damn.
Your profession has the possibility of making money afterwards. Anyway, we had this one especially shitty house where like literally nothing in the entire house was level. And I had a wheeled desk chair at my desk.
Yes.
And the floor was so uneven that I would just, unless I had like my feet firmly planted on the ground, would just slowly roll away from my desk.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I put my feet up on the wheels or anything like that, I would just be drifting farther and farther away from my computer.
Sick. But
I never drifted back towards it.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. Was I bet you never returned back to the place in which you left from.
Correct. Because a lot of the debunking or demystifying side of this is like, it was an old house on weird land and like things had settled and it wasn't even.
Right.
Okay. But that doesn't explain right angle turns and coming back to an original starting point.
Yeah.
And then you get into all the mess of like, this is all just anecdotal and we don't have hard evidence of any of these things happening and et cetera, et cetera.
Kind of. So let's go through a handful of more peculiarities
Yes.
of the orb, the ball, the sphere, if you will.
Are you moving away from the movement ones? Because I wanted to add a couple things to that if you are.
Go ahead.
They also put on their dining room table,
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
and the ball seemed to be able to trace the edges of the table. So it would roll across the table, but never off the edge of the table. So it would roll up to the edge and stop and then change direction.
It's a fucking Roomba.
Yeah.
It won't go down your stairs, but it'll find where they are.
Right. So again, like table is maybe more likely to be level, but also like if something is rolling in one direction, it's not going to stop rolling in that direction before it gets to the edge of the table.
Right.
Unless your table has like crazy dips and waves in it.
They also, in further exploration of the table situation, were said to have propped their coffee table up on one side, raising it 2 or 3 feet higher than the other side with like some books or whatever, and then placed the ball on the table to see if then they could get it to fall off. And instead, they claimed that the ball actually rolled up the incline of the coffee table angle that they had created.
This one doesn't seem physically possible to me.
Well, it would be defying gravity.
Well, not just that, but even if it were propelled somehow, is there enough friction? Like, what kind of table are we talking? Is a stainless steel ball able to, like...
Against glass or
like that just doesn't seem
even wood.
Plausible, regardless of how much force is behind it.
Sure.
Unless there's something like some other force holding it to the table.
Right.
I don't know how it wouldn't just slide off.
Yeah, I don't either. That's also... So, one of the cool things about this story is it caught national attention, and we'll get to how in a second here. Excuse me. So there's a lot of really interesting news clippings, and I have a bunch of them here that I'll share as we go. So we also have a lot of really great quotes from the family.
Mm-hmm.
There's also, like we said at the beginning, a lot of very small details in this story, like the one that I just said, that I have not found in any of the news clippings specifically.
Yeah.
So where that specific detail about the ball having a capability of rolling uphill is from, I don't actually know.
Just part of the legend
it's just
at this
become
point.
part of the story now. So it's
Which
cool.
Yeah, I'm always obviously most skeptical of that stuff, especially when it is claiming to defy like basic laws of physics.
Right. But the cool thing to me about this story is that we do have the family saying a lot of the things that we're talking about, and we also have third-party corroboration of some of it as well.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly from, well, should we talk about the other peculiarities before we talk about how it got out into the world?
Yeah, as long as we don't have to say that word anymore.
Sorry.
Oddities?
I can't do it. Oddities. Easier.
Okay. It's moving around on its own. Changing directions. Table rolling uphill. This is another one of those, I can't find a source for it, but it's in all the stories about it.
Yep.
Allegedly rolled for 12 minutes straight once. So this thing was moving around on its own, not being pushed, not being propelled in any way externally for 12 minutes.
That's a short Molly hit, just saying.
Pardon?
Because it was rolling. Get it? Molly. Carry on.
I don't do real drugs. Your references are whooshing me.
Carry on. I don't either. This is a PG rated No, it's not.
It's absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Okay. So it's moving around on its own, defying laws of physics, moving for 12 minutes at a time. The Betz's also claimed that it appeared to respond to sunlight.
Mm-hmm.
Or more generally, weather.
Yeah, like the better the weather, the more active it was.
Yeah, so they described it being more active on brighter days as opposed to cloudy days. And because of this, thought it may be somehow solar powered.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a whole lot of detail about what more active means. And we can, I guess, infer that means it's moving more, or it's...
I would surmise that means more like longer periods of time. So you let it roll and it rolls for a while.
There also started to be some poltergeisty type stuff happening in the house once the sphere was brought into the house.
Yeah, it started with some... Jerry stated that there was a low humming coming from it at certain times. She said it was almost as if a motor was running inside of it.
Yeah, like an idling type of sound.
Yeah, like when you're trying to lay in your bed and you can hear a truck in the alley or whatever, just sort of going like go, 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 something like that.
Wait, how'd it go?
Go, 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 go.
Nice.
Like
There's
that.
a hand motion with that
yeah,
too?
Yeah,
yes?
it's got, yeah. I was hitting that whip in my chair.
Jesus.
Like a low engine sound. And then there was also, they said also sometimes it would potentially give off, or what they assumed was some sort of high frequency, because when placed near their dog actually like yowled and like they said put paws on its ears, which that one is in a news clipping, and B, as a new dog dad, I can totally get behind that because I have a part husky dog, and when the sound is not right, she will let you know. So I can totally believe that.
I was watching some YouTube videos the other day demoing this specific synthesizer that I'm in the market for. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting on my couch watching this video, and my dog was asleep on the couch next to me.
Tight.
And when I started playing the video, he woke up and like moved over towards me and just like smacked his paw down on the keyboard of my computer and was like, no.
Absolutely
Whatever
not.
that sound is,
I want none
we're not
of it.
doing it. This is unacceptable.
Dad, if you buy that synthesizer, I'll eat all your shoes. I'll fucking eat every shoe in this house.
I will chew through every single cable I can find until that thing stops making noise.
I will eat that synthesizer and I will poo out every piece. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah. So it was making like low, weird idling sounds, high frequency sounds, and then it started playing organ music.
Oh, okay. Oh, cool.
And
I'll take two.
And they started experiencing doors opening and closing on their own throughout the house.
Oh, cool. Even better.
And this was actually sort of the final straw in the Betz's contacting the press first, and then later other governmental agencies, just trying to figure out what the fuck is going on.
Now,
This was the threshold for them of like, this thing can't just hang out in our house without us knowing what it is any longer.
And let's be honest, they waited too goddamn long in the first place.
Well, the timing is odd in that like nothing happened for the first 2 weeks that it was in their house. So
Right.
It wasn't like they brought it home and then the guitar resonant thing happened later that night. It just sat without doing anything for 2 weeks until the guitar resonant incident
Right.
seemed to kick off all this other stuff that then sort of seemed to escalate to the point that doors are opening and closing on their own and music is coming from the ether.
Motherfucker had to recharge, man.
I guess he needs some sunlight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I have zero explanation for that because to this day we still don't, really know what this thing is. Or maybe that's up for debate at the end here. But
We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there. But it's weird that nothing happened for 2 weeks. Then it started doing weird shit, and they were like, "This is fine. Like, we don't need to tell anyone that this is a thing that we discovered."
It's not like threatening at all.
No, but
It's weird, but it's not.
But
it seems dangerous.
Well,
it was the 70s in rural Florida, man. The risk tolerance is higher.
That's higher than it is now.
Yeah.
I feel like Florida's risk tolerance is through the goddamn ceiling.
Man, that's why I don't go there. But
they got fucking snakes.
If you own
fucking
88
gators.
acres of Florida rural ass property, a weird little ball is probably not high on your list of priorities.
I suppose. I just think if you think there is any possibility that this is something that's defying the laws of gravity or physics or propulsion as we understand it in the 70s, your mind probably should go to
Put it on eBay.
this is not yeah, right. This is not civilian in nature. This is potentially military. This is potentially foreign military.
They got there eventually.
Right. But I'm just trying to say.
They just got haunted first.
Yeah, it took you to get full on fucking poltergeisted before you were like, okay, maybe this is a Russian weapon and we should like tell somebody about it.
As an investment, though, I mean, you don't want to take your first offer, right? You got to let the lore and the legends build a little
around
bit.
it.
If it spreads, word of mouth first, that's great for your investment.
Sure.
If you go to somebody day one and say, hey, I got this weird ball bearing, you want to give me $1 million for it, no one's taking you up on that.
I mean, true. It also...
Now you got a haunted ball bearing that plays nice music.
It's like haunted dolls on
and
eBay,
it might
man.
vacuum your floors.
Yeah, for sure. Roomba ball bearing.
DJ Roomba,
Yep.
the haunted ball bearing.
DJ Roomba, the haunted ball bearing is for sure the name of our next album. It must be.
Like you can get at least $100,000 for that on whatever the 1970s eBay was.
True.
Flea market.
An auction house. Yeah.
Sotheby's.
Sotheby's. DJ Roomba, the haunted ball bearing, brought to you by Sotheby's.
Presented by Sotheby's.
Yes. Here for it. It is weird though that their first move, I'm gonna speak to both sides of this. At first I was like, it's weird that the first thing you would do would be to go to the Jacksonville Journal. Like big local paper. Is your first thing gonna be to get the press involved, or is your first thing gonna be to get like an authority figure of some kind involved, or
an authority on what though? Because you don't know what it is.
Engineering, science.
I mean, you also have a what was Twan's?
He's a marine engineer.
Okay, so if he's looking at it and saying, I don't know what the fuck this thing is. We don't use anything like this. I don't think this is a U.S. government or a U.S. naval or whatever.
Yeah,
property.
But he's not like the end all be all authority. I just feel like
I know, but like up to the point where shit really starts getting weird. That might be enough to like not seek outside help, so to speak, like because you don't really have a problem. You just have a weird thing.
I guess all I'm saying is if an 8-pound steel bowling ball just showed up in my lawn one day, I'm not calling the Star Tribune. I'm calling like...
Who, though? I honestly don't know what I would do.
I don't know. I mean, the fucking FBI? I don't know.
What's their phone number? How does that conversation go?
There is for sure phone numbers for the FBI.
I'm never calling the
on the
feds to
internet.
my own house for any reason.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't want to see them. That's true.
I'm rolling that thing down the street before I call the feds to my own house.
You just throw it over the fence.
I'm going to go to the hill up by the river and just let that thing go.
Hi, Dave. Just on the dugout. Looks like you got something pretty weird in your yard. Might want to do something about that. Have a good day. Bye. Just lob it over the fence at night.
I'm just saying, like, I'm going to make that someone else's problem before I'm making the FBI in my backyard my problem.
That's real. I guess.
Or I'm selling that bitch.
But the other thing is, you just got the entire fucking city of Jacksonville involved by having the newspaper come along and write a paper about it.
I'm fully in agreement on that point. I'm not calling the press probably at any point in this arc.
Right. Okay.
Much less first. That is odd to me. I agree.
Okay, cool. So, all right. So to further the story, that's what they did first. They called the Jacksonville Journal.
I'm just saying I don't know what I would do in place of that.
I agree. It's not like, yeah.
There's not an obvious move that they missed here. They just picked one that I probably wouldn't.
Sure. That's real. They did call the Jacksonville Journal, and the Jacksonville Journal was like, sounds weird. Also, we think you're full of shit, but we'll check it out, I guess.
But Lou, get out there and look at it.
Hey, Lou, remember how you fucked up your assignment last week?
This lady's got a weird ball. Go check it out.
Go talk to these kooks out in Fort George Island. And that's what he did. He thought they were full of shit. Lon Enger was his name. He went out to the house.
Wait, what was his name?
Lon Enger.
I thought it was Lou.
I've got Lon, Lon.
I hope it's Lon.
Lon is cool.
Like Lon Ranch from the Ocarina of Time. I'm going to keep making Ocarina. It's the new Cat and Joe bit.
We do talk about Zelda an inordinate amount on the show.
The right amount.
It's also because you and I were raised in a time period where N64 was like the cool shit, and Ocarina of Time was a game that like everyone who owned an N64 had.
Yeah.
So
we'll move on to GoldenEye at some point, episode 150 or so.
Can't wait. Can't wait.
Also, what the fuck, Nintendo? I need to be able to play those on my Switch. Hurry up.
Whatever. I still have my N64.
I have two of them, but I'd rather play it on my Switch.
Two of them. Look at you, balling ass.
Oh, good for me. Rich as fuck over here. Business is booming. I got two 64s.
Fuck with your boy. Fuck with me. I'm grown now. So they sent Lon out to the house, and when Jerry met him at the door, the story goes she told him that he, quote, needed to see it with his own eyes. In the April 12th...
That's a very dramatic way of stating that. Yes, I'd like to look at it. Let me see it with mine eyes.
No. She told him...
Present me thine ball, miss.
No, she said that he said... Or no, excuse me. He said, she said, hey, man, you need to see this with your own eyes. It's pretty crazy.
Oh, I'm gonna do it!
Yes.
Calm down, Ray.
So in the April 12th, 1974 edition of the St. Petersburg Times, there's a quote from, I'm going to say Lon Anger. What?
I thought it was a Jacksonville paper.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm assuming it was like the Jacksonville Journal sent out their photographer, and it's one of those things where like the photographs get syndicated out to all their papers.
Yes. Syndication is a thing I know about. Sorry, keep going. I just said in a knowing way.
Got it.
Not knowing anything.
Got it. You know how like everything is like AP, like photo by AP?
I got there eventually.
Okay.
I was just calling myself out for being an asshole and then interrupting you and then perpetuating the vicious cycle.
Okay.
Keep going.
So what he said was, she told me to put it on the floor and give it a push. It rolled a ways and stopped. So what? She said, just wait a minute. It then turned by itself and rolled to the right about 4 feet. It stopped. Then it turned again and rolled to the left about 8 feet, made a big arc, and came right back to my feet. So when this story went out, it was a big enough paper in Florida that a whole bunch of people were like, what? And
Let me see that ball.
Let me see. Hey, what'd that ball do? The New York Times, the London Daily, the story I said that papers as far as from Japan traveled to Fort George Island.
What? Why?
To try to interview her, ask questions, take photos, etc.
Can you imagine being the like managing editor that has to justify that expense report though?
Yeah, totally.
We spent $3,000 on a round trip flight to middle of nowhere's ass Florida.
It's in the paper.
To look at a ball.
It's in the paper. They said it. Yeah, I don't know. But it took off and people
New York Times, London Daily, bunch of places covered this shit.
Picked it up and started talking about the ball.
Which is, if we're getting into possible explanations, just foreshadowing possible explanations, I guess.
Yes.
Why? I don't understand why this was the move from the Betz's point of view. You really want a bunch of people knocking on your door asking to see the weird ball? And
that's literally what I was saying. Why are you hitting up the press? You know this is what's going to happen.
And none of them have any actual information for you. This is just a story that's weird enough to sell some papers. Like, are you hoping that this then raises the general visibility of the story so that you can get an expert involved, or like,
which is what happened for what it's worth.
Yeah, I just feel like it wasn't really a necessary step though, and probably caused a lot of headaches.
That's what I was trying to say earlier, was like they should have just hit up any expert in any field, and even if it wasn't their thing, they could have directed them to somebody else whose thing it was, to just start getting people involved who might actually be able to help them, not just literally blow up. I mean, in some of the papers, there's quotes from Jerry saying that when the family moved to Fort George Island, I don't know where they were beforehand, but they bought land and like bought a place that was far away so that they could actually calm down after what was apparently like more of a city life for most of their lives. Again, she was in like the trucking industry. Like I think she like ran a trucking company for a while.
Yeah.
they were like, I think trying to maybe retire a little bit and chill out. So there's even quotes from her where she was like, I didn't even think it was going to be this big. Now I'm getting called day and night. I think she said something like, by the time people are going to sleep on the East Coast, or by the time people are going to sleep on the West Coast, the people on the East Coast are calling me again in the morning or something like that.
Vice versa, but yeah.
No, that's right. Because vice versa.
They were on the East Coast.
Anyway,
doesn't matter.
Point being that
Shit was annoying.
Shit was annoying, and they're getting blown up from everywhere. And I mean, the headline from the St. Petersburg Times article from that April 12th thing I was just quoting from is called "Mystery Sphere: A Bugging Device from Outer Space."
Hell yeah!
A mysterious sphere that seems to move with a will of its own has the Antoine Betz family wondering if it has been bugged by creatures from outer space.
The Antoine Betz family, huh?
Yep. A perfect sphere smaller than a bowling ball and weighing about 25 pounds. It showed up one morning on the lawn of the Betz castle-like home on Fort George Island near here. When taken inside, the family, the sphere began its tale of unpredictability.
Hell yeah.
Quote, it would stop and then return to the person who rolled it, said Jerry Betz. Sometimes
so unpredictable. What a tale.
It veered one way or another. Then it would
where's it going?
And vibrate.
It's shaking.
Also, this paper does have Lou instead of Lon, so maybe I was wrong.
I prefer Lon. Let's go with it.
Lou says, Lon.
Who says?
Lon says,
there we go.
I'm leery of this kind of thing. When I got there, Mrs. Betz said, you won't believe this if you don't see it. And that's when he tells a story about it rolling and coming back around. They also point out in this article one thing that we didn't cover that was a detail of it, which is that the Betz family claimed that they figured out that it was magnetic in one spot, or they were able to like get a magnet to stick to, or a piece of metal to stick to it in one spot.
Well, yeah, let's maybe
transition.
Yeah, so the press campaign, so to speak, was effective in that they eventually got the Marine Corps, NASA, and the Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, or ARPO. Yes.
Go ahead.
You clearly have something
I
to
was
say.
about to yell, it's your boy!
I don't get it.
J. Allen Hynek.
Oh. All three of those organizations got involved in terms of contacting the family to try and figure out what this thing was and what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
They also, the family decided to contact the Navy because they thought maybe this thing belonged to them. I don't know why the Navy specifically versus Air Force or Marines or NASA or other places that maybe seem more likely to be in control of a metal ball that you think fell from the sky.
I genuinely think it's because there's a Navy base near them.
Okay.
So they were like, if it was military of any kind, you guys are the closest military authorities or experts that could come look at this thing, or we could bring it to you.
And if not, can you figure out who it is?
Can you holler at your buds and ask them?
Yeah. So the Navy did an examination of the ball and
turn to the left. Turn to the left. Cough. Turn to the right. Cough.
Heck.
I had to make one balls joke.
No, you didn't.
I did. I had to.
You did not.
All right, carry on.
Uh-oh.
They examined the balls. Tell me what they found.
It's one, singular.
Well,
upon examination, they found it was one.
It's still a real and valid person.
Jesus. All right. They gave the ball to the Navy and said, if this thing is yours, keep it. If not, give it back to us in 2 weeks. And if you can tell us what it is or anything about it,
we'd love to know.
Awesome. Yeah. The Navy concluded that it was not anything that they owned or had made. But in the process of figuring that out, they x-rayed it and did a metallurgical analysis and found out some information that the Betzes had not known up to that point.
And a pressure test?
Yes, also that. So the Navy concluded that it was made of stainless steel, that it was hollow with a shell approximately a half an inch thick, that it was 7.96 inches in diameter and weighed 21.34 pounds. Also, upon x-raying the ball, discovered 2 round objects inside of it, surrounded by a sort of halo or another layer, I guess, inside of the ball, made of a material that they couldn't identify from the X-ray. Like, without cracking it open, they couldn't conclude what it was, but they conclude that it must be extremely dense, whatever it is. Because if we're talking about, like we were talking earlier, like this thing is 8 inches across but weighs 22 pounds. That's pretty dense. However, the X-ray showed that this thing was mostly hollow.
Yeah, I mean, if a half inch sheet of steel
certainly doesn't weigh 22 pounds.
Doesn't weigh 22 pounds when it's only
pounds.
8 inches in diameter.
Right.
So there has to be something in there that's making it weigh more than that.
Yeah. They also found, going back to your magnetism point, that the sphere actually had 4 different magnetic poles, 2 negative and 2 positive.
Yep.
And that they were not, I'm just going to recite this because it's in there, but I don't really know what it means. The poles were not concentric. So I don't know if that means that they were, I don't know what that means. Short answer, don't know what that means, but in case you do know what it means, I wanted to say it.
Chris,
also
send me an email, please.
We welcome the help because
Those 2 are fucking dumb.
My cousin, the electrical engineer who has helped us out in the past, I feel like we'll know what that means.
anybody who knows anything about magnetism, please help. We have an art degree and an English degree. We don't know shit.
Oh, it's bad. It's so bad.
And yet you're listening to us. So
Thank you. We love you. Glad you're here.
So the Navy concluded those things. They conclude that it was not theirs, and they gave the ball back to the Betzes. I'm going to kind of skate over some of the rest of this analysis so we can get to what the fuck is this thing and where the fuck is this thing.
For sure.
As we're coming up against the clock here.
Wasn't, just to clarify quick, didn't the Navy want to cut it open to find out what the fuck was going on? And the Betz family was like, if you're going to destroy it, we don't want you to do that. We want to keep it intact.
I don't know if they wanted to cut it open. I think they said, we could give you more information if we cut it open.
And they said, don't do that. We like it the way it is.
Yeah.
Got it.
I think they were like, here's what we have based on leaving this thing intact. We could give you more information about what this other layer and what these 2 separate objects are.
Yep.
If we drill into it or if we cut it open.
Right.
J. Allen Hynek also looked at the object at one point, and his conclusion was that it was likely man-made, although he didn't have any idea what it was or where it came from.
Yeah, there was a convention in New Orleans, Louisiana, related to the National Enquirer and their their offer for $50,000 for anyone who could prove that they had a
proof of extraterrestrial life.
Yes, and Hynek had gotten in touch with the family and said, I'd love to take a look at this thing and see. And they were like, well, Louisiana is close enough to Florida.
Well, he originally wanted them to ship it to him at Northwestern in Chicago.
And they were like, that
near Chicago.
That seems dicey, bro.
Right.
How about we keep it in our hands while you look at it?
Yeah.
In case you try to run off to Canada with it, you weird old dude.
Or like we're shipping this thing that we don't know what it is, which is probably not a great situation.
Also this.
James Harder also looked at it and came to a very different conclusion. Dr. Harder asserted, I'm reading from, I don't know, Harder's conclusion, maybe, probably. Based on X-ray studies that the 2 internal spheres are made of elements far heavier than anything known to science, at least in 1974. While the heaviest element yet produced in any atomic reactor here on Earth has an atomic number of 105, and the heaviest element naturally occurring on Earth is uranium with an atomic number of 92, the Betz sphere has atomic numbers higher than 140. If one were to drill into the sphere, perhaps the masses could go critical and explode like an atomic bomb.
Oops.
So Harder sort of came to the conclusion that this thing was a nuke from outer space.
And this is also, I think, probably influencing my earlier thought of, if you don't know what it is,
don't fuck with it.
Maybe it's an outer space atomic bomb and you should call someone who can do something with that better than you can.
He also said
Hey, let's shake it and throw it off the ground and see what happens.
because of this danger and because the object is still presumably under surveillance by its supposed alien makers,
Oh, sick.
I warn against any attempt to go to Florida to investigate the Betz sphere.
So good.
So he said, don't even look at it because the aliens will know
That you're looking at
and
it.
they will detonate their nuke.
It's terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It's quite terrifying.
He's wrong, but it's a hot take. I like it.
It's an extremely hot take.
Yeah, I fuck with it. We are at the what the fuck is it section of my notes. Did you have other things you wanted to include before that?
The only thing I guess I'll include is well,
Yeah,
this
totally.
is no. I was gonna say I guess this is more in the what the fuck is it, but after inspection and some of the news articles we'll talk about right now in the what the fuck is it phase of things, the sphere, well, disappeared isn't the right word. But
we don't know where it is.
we don't know where it is. And the Betz family, as far as I'm aware of, has not spoken about it since, or spoken of where it is, or like they sort of fell off the proverbial map, if you will, after being very in the limelight for a while.
The Astonishing Legends series we referenced earlier has some interviews with a member of the Betz family, which I think is the first time they've been on the record about it in a long time. And she remains anonymous, but she, who I guess proved to Scott and Forrest at least that she was who she said she was.
Yeah.
Provides some insight into like a lot of these things we're talking about, and I don't think ever gets around to like where it is,
Sure.
or who has it, or what it was. But there's a little more information out there that is exclusive to them, and I won't step on too many toes because they went through a lot of work to get that information.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we don't know where it is or what it is.
For sure. There's an article from the St. Petersburg Times from, this says April 15th, but I don't think that's right because that would have been 3 days after the original news article came out. So that seems too soon. But again, some of this is a little messy.
The dates are not consistent.
The headline is "Just a Ball, Navy. Not so, it's Finders." And the opening couple paragraphs of this say, the Navy says a mystery sphere found by the Antoine Betz family is only a stainless steel ball made somewhere on Earth. But the object's discoverers won't give up the notion that it's from outer space. Quote, maybe we've just become over-attached to it, but the ball is odd, and even the Navy called it a Mexican jumping bean, Mrs. Betz said Sunday.
That's not what that is.
Who could say what's
It's a terrible take, Navy.
on another planet? Even speculations have been proven wrong. The Navy says what it isn't. They say it isn't an explosive, so we still want to know what it is.
Can I run through the list of possibilities as proposed by this Mysterious Universe article written by Rob Morphy?
Fuck yeah, you can.
Okay.
And I'll add any that I found, because I didn't read that article, so I'll add anything I found.
Number 1, a sea bottom marker.
Yes.
Did you come across this one?
Yes, I did.
Okay. I guess a sea bottom marker is something that was used in by submarines, that specifically submarines carrying missiles,
Yep.
as like reference points on the bottom of the seafloor, so they could know exactly where they were objectively.
Yep.
So I get that would maybe explain like this thing is really dense. This thing was maybe giving off radio frequencies or transmitting some sort of information. How it would have ended up in a field that the Betz's owned is not really answered by this solution.
Right.
And the fact that they brought it to the Navy and the Navy said, this is not ours.
If it was a sea marker, I'm pretty sure they would have been able to be like, yeah, that looks like this thing.
Or even if you're not going to tell, I mean, I could see a reason for not telling someone what it is, because maybe that's that's secret.
Right.
But the Betzes said, if it's yours, keep it. You wouldn't have had to tell them what it is or what it does or why it was in their yard.
They could have just said...
They could just say, this is ours. Yes, thank you for returning it.
Fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did your job. Thank you. So that one doesn't do a whole lot for me.
Me neither.
Okay. Did you come across the James Sterling Jones stolen balls explanation?
I did.
Okay. There's a sculptor named James Sterling Jones who claims he was moving a bunch of these metallic balls on the luggage rack of his Volkswagen bus.
And inside.
Oh, okay.
He had spheres of varying shapes and sizes and materials inside and on the luggage rack of his vehicle.
And he claims that this thing flew off the luggage rack of his vehicle.
He was a sculptor from the New Mexico area who said that he had acquired these steel balls,
quote, legally. Which is always reassuring. No. I did that legally.
Can I read a quick
absolutely
piece from the Sarasota Journal that is related to this?
Yes.
The Sarasota Journal, this is again from spring of 1974, titled "Mysterious Steel Ball, Probably Taos Sculptors." Taos is a location in New Mexico where this gentleman, James Sterling Jones, is from.
Another very solid name.
James Sterling Jones. Mm-hmm. It's so James Earl Jones, but so not.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "I'm kind of a sphere freak," he said. "I had that bus crammed full, so I stuck the spheres up on top in a luggage carrier. I guess I lost 3 or 4 of them somewhere in the South.
Guess my balls fell off.
We went through the Jacksonville area around Easter of 71. Sterling Jones, who manages the sagebrush in Taos when he isn't sculpting or transporting spheres, which I feel like is a little bit of shade. Like
very, like very much.
When he's not sculpting or transporting spheres, was reluctant to say what the spheres were originally used for. Quote, "Look, these things aren't perfect. If they were perfect, they'd be worth several $1,000s.
Hey, I didn't say I'm a good sculptor. Yeah. I just make shit."
Well, I think it was more like what they were originally, because he says, "Look, these things aren't perfect. If they were perfect, they'd be worth several $1,000s in the company that made them," he said. Besides, if I tell you,
got like the rejects of some manufacturer.
Yeah. Besides, if I tell you, the company will want them back. Quote, "Were they stolen?" Quote, "Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but it would probably cost my friend his job if they found out about it. Besides, I've been offered some more of them," which sounds a lot like, yes, this is totally illegal. So if I tell you where the original ones come from, I won't get my new shipment of dope spheres that I want very badly.
Also, they're full of cocaine.
Yeah, right? Like, what the fuck?
So if you see one, please bring it back.
Please bring it back. Yeah, it's just like, it's so shady. He's like, well, we didn't steal them, but also
we also didn't obtain them legally.
If people knew that we had them, they would be pretty fucking pissed. Like,
and at least one person would get fired.
Yeah, like that doesn't sound like a match at all.
It's a drug smuggling gray area here.
Well, it's Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The article continues. A bit later, the sculptor said the spheres were intended as part of an industrial valve, quote,
right,
like the ones used in high-pressure transmission lines. He said lying exposed for nearly 3 years in the Florida elements would hardly tarnish the sphere. They're all made out of 411 stainless, he said. They'll rust and oxidize, but only very slightly.
Okay.
The man who found the sphere, Betz, said it rolled by itself and rattled. Quote, "The rattle comes from trying to patch the sphere," the sculptor said. "The company drills the spheres and re-welds them before machining them again. Sometimes some of the milling or drilling chips drop inside, and the manufacturer machines the spheres to extremely close tolerances, so the ones that I got were slightly out of round." So the article is claiming that the vibration or some of the sound that it made was because there's metal chunks or chips inside, which
the X-ray supported to an extent.
You could make an argument for that. And then also he's saying if they were slightly out of round, that could potentially explain for them getting set down
The old
and
wobble.
wobbling, rolling, and potentially doing it in a boomerang style fashion or whatever that might be.
Right. Hey, DJ Roomba, play Wobble Wobble.
Oh, yes. DJ Roomba. Oh, man, I already forgot the name.
I'm going to change
Lost it.
Siri's name to DJ Roomba on my phone.
I already forgot our great band name, DJ Roomba.
And the Funky Bunch.
Damn, we fucked up. Yeah, we fucked up.
Did I ever tell you that sometimes the very few times I use Siri, we're over time and I'm telling a Siri story. It's okay.
That's all right.
I saw that glance at the time.
It was not. I was looking at the time being like, oh, we still have at least like 30 more minutes before you people get bored of us.
My phone for I don't know, a long time since I've had an iPhone and Siri existed. My name has been Long Balls Iron Man on that phone. Have I told that story on the podcast? I think I probably have.
I think you have. It's maybe been a while, but
so sometimes when I ask Siri a question where Siri responds with your name, my phone will just call me Long Balls Iron Man out loud.
And you don't not laugh every time.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
Also, it just requires a lot of explanation or no explanation, depending on...
Like if you're on the bus and your phone calls you Long Balls Iron Man and the person next to you gets up and finds a new seat.
As they should. That is a name that a kindergartner gave me once upon a time because he decided he did not like my name. And he renamed me Long Balls. And then I asked him if that was first name Long, last name Balls, or first name Long Balls. He said first name Long Balls. And I said, well, then what's my last name? And he obviously hadn't thought this far ahead. And the first Iron Man movie had just came out. And he said my name was Long Balls Iron Man.
To be honest.
And I let him call me that for the rest of that school year because
it's the
that's
greatest
hilarious.
thing ever.
Yes.
And also, I think we just found that the Betz Sphere, a.k.a. Long Balls Iron Man, is definitely
a.k.a. One Ball Iron Man.
Yeah, is definitely... Or long one ball Iron... Yeah, I don't know.
Long Ball Iron Man.
Long Ball Iron Man.
Big Ball Iron Man.
Singular.
Big Ball Iron Man. There it is.
Damn, that boy long. So...
Jesus Cristo.
It's an interesting...
Spilling beer on my own pants.
It's now you know we're over time. We got your two Deckard, bud.
Drank one, spilled the second one on my pants.
Two Deckard. Okay, there's two takes here. One is, this is a super reasonable explanation. It's a ball valve from a company that
fell off a truck and they found it in the field.
Fell off a truck from a guy who was in the area at the time. There's a lot of things that are explained by the story if you believe that this story is legitimate.
This is the most plausible explanation to me.
I would agree.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on. It's down to satellite.
Yes.
This one is fun, but doesn't really work for me for the reasons that we discussed earlier. It would be in rougher shape. Satellites are not usually metallic spheres. There would have been an impact crater. Someone would have claimed it. If you're asking NASA and the military, is this yours? Do you know what this is? And they're all saying no.
Yeah.
This one's fun, but I think is extremely unlikely. Speaking of extremely unlikely, the last one proposed by this article is an alien atomic bomb.
Heyo.
AKA the James Harder experience.
Yeah, but I mean, again, that just doesn't...
It's really fun. I mean, not fun.
Yeah.
It's really out there.
It's an interesting concept.
Yes. Does nothing to explain how it got there, however.
No, it does not.
Why. Or why it never went off, or why aliens were trying to nuke Florida,
right.
Or all kinds of things.
Or whether, I mean, we can say it has the power to explode like an atomic bomb. That doesn't necessarily mean that it is intended to explode. It may mean that it is just
capable of
doing that.
Right. That is 1,000,000% wild speculation.
Oh God, yes. And also
there is no factual evidence supporting that whatsoever.
Totally. And another one of the cool things, wild speculation, cool things I read is talking about how the Foo Fighters epidemic was not a super far time away from this.
Wasn't it?
Well, 20 years or 15, 20 years. And that people were saying, well, an orb with atomic internal power that seems to be of its own mind and controlled potentially externally. Maybe it gets more energy from the sun, and if it were to be closer to the sun up in space, would it potentially be able to fly? And like,
we're back to a lot of the same issues though. Like if this thing fell out of the sky in any way, even if not from outer space,
well, maybe it'd
be fucked up and there'd be an impact somewhere.
But maybe it just took maybe it was, coming down, but it wasn't like, free falling coming down. Maybe it had a controlled landing because it had an issue of some kind.
I see.
Outrageous speculation, but some people like to go that route.
All right.
There is a great article that I have to read in full because A, it's only 3 paragraphs, and B, it has a paragraph that I think will delight your heart, and you'll know it when we get there. It is also a final theory that I find very interesting. It is from the Palm Beach Post, again, in spring of 1974.
Show me what you got.
The title of the article is Really Having a Ball, and it goes like this. Okay.
Off to a great start.
Enough is enough. Will the person who put that mysterious 22-pound stainless steel sphere on the lawn of the Antoine Betz family of Jacksonville please own up? Finding an Easter egg on the lawn is one thing, but it's something else to find a metal ball that vibrates on its own, appears magnetic in areas, and returns to its original spot after being pushed away. The sphere also may emit high-frequency radio waves because the family dog can't stand being around it. Add this to some unexplained organ music since this, quote, giant Mexican jumping bean came into the Betz home. There's bound to be some logical explanation for all this. Certainly, there may be nothing to the general suspicion that the sphere was dropped on the lawn from Air Force One to help take the people's minds off of Watergate. 2, that is silly speculation that this is a homemade bowling ball unsanctioned by the American Bowling Congress and discarded by an irate 120 shooter. As for the Betz family being bugged by a creature from space, as some have suggested, well, who
Space
can
bugs.
say whether this thing isn't the creature itself? This mysterious sphere...
Hot take. Very hot take. I like that one.
For sure.
Sentient balls.
Right? This mysterious sphere may prove more fun than a barrel of skunk apes, a school of Loch Ness monsters,
Jesus,
and
barrel of skunk apes.
and a squadron of flying saucers. A metal sphere that just sits and vibrates, faithfully stays at your side, and doesn't need to be fed or to be taken for a walk. Can't be too bad to have around. Now, if the Betzes will just tell us what kind of organ music it plays.
Wow.
Pretty good one, right?
Journalistic excellence right there.
Real talk.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's something like an editor's note kind of thing that they had been reporting on it and was like, what the fuck's going on here? But yeah, dropped from Air Force One to distract people from Watergate. Pretty strong.
I love that, followed up by like, maybe this thing is alive.
Maybe it's its own thing. And then saying anything being more fun than a barrel of skunk apes is just our new credo, I think.
So strong.
This show's more fun than a barrel of skunk apes.
Although it perpetuates the monkeys and apes are the same thing myth, which
Well,
spent a lot of time in my life trying to undo.
true.
Monkeys have tails, guys.
get
Your
it
puns,
together.
make sure your puns work. Monkeying around when talking about gorillas doesn't work.
Hey, monkeying around, you motherfucker. All right, guys. Hey, thank you for listening to the show. It is the What If Podcast. Join the Facebook group. Leave us an iTunes review. Go to patreon.com/whatifpodcast. Get a second episode every week for just $5 a month. Leave us a voicemail at 612-246-4614. Send us an email at hi@whatifpodcast.com. At What If Pod on all social.
We out of here.
Love you.
We out of here.
I actually feel like that's a really fun way.